everyone, it's Desiree. So let's get cracking. So you can see that I'm going to be using the Rose Spinner add-on to her spinner, to Scrappy Tail's spinner dies. But I just really liked the rose, the long stem rose. So we're going to make our own glitter paper, because this is awesome, because we can use up some of the glitter that I feel reproduces itself in the jars, because it never goes away. I'm just saying. So I'm going to use my double-sided foam tape. One, because it's really strong, and two, it's a large width. So it's going to cover a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel. And that's what this is. Now I am going to trim this down, but just to make sure, I start out with that panel. This did not completely cover in 2 passes, so I'm going to lift up the release paper on each side and then put a piece right down the center. I am not worried about this line that will show, because the tape is double layered. You know, like the little tiny bump, it's like a crack going across it. It's not going to be seen, but I just wanted this entire panel to be covered. I was toying around a couple different ideas on what I was going to do with this card. I have to be honest with you. So I'm measuring, I'm seeing how big this piece is, and all of this fun stuff. So just going crazy. I've got my panel now exposed, removed the release paper, and I'm using different shades of glitter. I'm actually mixing, so I'm using a red, I'm using a fuchsia for the rose, and I just want to see where that's going to hit in my placement. I'm using Prickly Pear. I absolutely love Prickly Pear by Tonic. Their glitter, just the glitter color, not the glitter. And then I'm using a green. I forget what that was called. That was also by Tonic. The red and the fuchsia, they were actually by Paper Mart. And now I am just burnishing this in with my finger, making an absolute mess. Now I know you can put a piece of paper on top of that and rub it over. I just feel better that I'm not going to lose glitter if I just use my finger. I know, it's weird. I'm going to continuously tap off the excess. Can you tell I love glitter? But it's a technique. And we can make our own glitter paper. And if we want to get rid of it, this is the best way. Use it up. Now, you can see the original line that I had put down. When you sprinkle, you will get more of a mixture like I wanted with the rose. With the leaf, I've got these bands. And again, I'm okay with that. I'm taking a piece of craft cardstock and I'm cutting that down to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to be running this through an embossing folder. So I'm going to cut this down as well. I want this to be a little bit smaller when I put the craft cardstock on top of that. Both of these panels are going to be propped up onto a black 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel. So I'm going to place the rose down, and I'm going to use some tape to hold that in place. And I'm using one of the Tim Holtz wood 3D embossing folders. I always spray my cardstock lightly, no drips, and I run it back and forth. And when it comes to these 3D embossing folders, I only use the metal shim or an extremely thick piece of cardstock, and I get a beautiful, beautiful impression. When I damp the paper, notice how I say damp. I mean, one spray, one mist on one side and one mist on the other. My paper does not crack. And this is the Recollections Craft, which is 65 pounds. I'm coming in with one of my blender brushes, and I'm using Vintage Photo just to go over the top, both in the same way that the grain is going and then across the grain, just to make sure that the wood grain details come through this piece. Placing that on top of my panel, I'm pulling in some of my acrylic paint. This is Buff Titanium, and I'm just coming in with a brush. I'm really watering this down. You think I'm going to do splatters? Nope. I'm going to accent the wood grain. And again, just really lightly brushing across that to get the wood grain look. I'm going to come in with my liquid glue, making sure that I'm getting in all of those corners from the die cut, and I'm placing this down now on top of our glitter panel. And you can see the greens coming up through, and the reds and the fuchsias are sitting at the rose. And that's what I was looking for. Again, I was okay with the crossover the way the green went, because now it just made the leaves look two-toned and so forth. The rose, I just wanted the hint of the two colors. So again, you can put down your glitter in different ways. I'm stamping my sentiment, and the sentiment actually comes from one of her previous stamp set releases, and it's from her, it's the Fairy Girl. And it says, wishing you a magical day. So this is a nice celebration card, or just giving somebody, you know, hey, you're going to have a good day, some encouragement there, or a birthday card. So you can make this whatever you're looking for. I'm using my Brutus Monroe powder, putting that on my gray cardstock, using my Simon Says Stamp clear ink, and I'm going to come in with my Wow Super Fine Detail White across that, and I'm going to heat set that using my heat gun. I'll put the rest of the powder in the pot, and we will now heat set this. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to be using one of my Simon Says Sentiment banner strip dies to cut this out, to die cut that, because I can't, you know, it's amazing. I'll use scissors, but yeah. There's some times where I just want a sentiment to be centered perfectly on the banner. It just all depends. You know, us as crafters, we are finicky people. And we're funny. Once I have that die cut, I'm going to tear each end, and I'm going to place this across the front. Not quite sure if I'm going to go down below the leaves or above. I chose to go down. I'm going to pull in my pokey tool, go down on each side, because I'm going to use my brads to hold this sentiment in place. Once the brads are set, I'm going to make sure that the openings are up and down. I will put a piece of film tape over them, just in case they should turn. I want to keep them in that spot, and I don't want them to keep turning, because eventually it will wear through the paper, actually. Once I have that, I'm going to use my double-sided foam tape, and I'm going to put a sheet. I'm just going to keep putting strips on the back of this so that it's covered. And then we're going to place that onto the black 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel. I forgot to, one of the things that I wanted to do was go around the sentiment with an ink, with a distress ink. And I wanted to use black soot because it was gray. So I'm going to use my finger dauber, and I have a piece of scrap here. So all I'm doing is just putting that in behind it, and then I'm coming in with the sponge dauber on my finger, just coming straight down on it just to give it a little bit of a shadow. And then going around the edges. So see, we can fix anything when we forget things. I'm going to use my tape runner, and I'm going to place this down on my standard A2 size card base. And then I'm going to use my clear iridescent gems, and I'm just going to set a few of those as well, just to add some shimmer. Not that we don't have enough with the glitter, but I love the way the glitter looks coming through the piece. Again, just simple little accents, and in here you can really see the blending of the glitter. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description, and I do hope that you enjoyed today's project. Just creating our own glitter paper and adding texture into our paper. Hope I gave you a few tips and tricks. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below, and I'll make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. Continue to enjoy this process, but most of all, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up, and if you want to, hit that bell. You may be notified. But remember, you are creating art, so enjoy it. Nobody else can create what you can create, and that's the beauty of this. But always remember what's most important for me. Always be creative, and I'll talk to you in the next video, guys. Till then.